Hello everyone, this is Dr. Kavita Kakade, Assistant Professor in Chemistry from Vinayak Vignan Mahavidyalaya, Nandgaon, Khandeshwar, and today I am here to discuss about a topic UV visible spectroscopy. When we study about this topic, we have to go through the point just like a history and background behind this technique, the basic principle which is involved in this technique, instrumentation of these techniques, applications, and lastly we have to study about the absorptionship which is takes place in this technique. So friends, let us start with the history and background of this technique. The spectroscopy is the word which is derived from the two words, that is the spectrum and scopy, where scopy is nothing but the study and spectrum is the color graph or the color pattern. This spectrum word was first coined by Sir Isaac Newton when he studied an experiment on the optics in 1662 to the 1672, and he observed that the color pattern which is coming out from the dispersion device and the color pattern of the rainbow is same, and the pattern of that color is called as the spectrum. After the discovery of the dispersion spectrophotometer, the spectroscopy is used in a various field of the chemistry, physics, and in astronomy also. UV spectroscopy. This UV spectroscopy, it is a type of a absorption spectroscopy which cover a range from 190 to 800 nanometers, and it is also called as the electronic spectroscopy. This spectroscopy is called as absorption spectroscopy just because the light which is absorbed by the material is used to analyze the characteristic property of that particular matter. Again, the radiation range is from 190 to 700 to 800 nanometer. This range is between the X-ray and the IR region. This spectroscopy is called as the absorption spectroscopy. The radiation range of this technique is from 190 to 800 nanometer, and it is also called as the electronic spectroscopy. The basic application of this technique is to study the conjugation which is present in your molecule, whether the conjugation which is present is aromatic or aliphatic in nature, and also it is used to differentiate between the aliphatic and aromatic conjugations. This technique is called as a absorption technique just because the radiation which is absorbed by the material is used to analyze the certain basic information regarding the material. There is another one technique, that is a emission spectrum, in which the emitted radiation is used. So lots of the spectroscopies which are there are classified mainly into the two types, that is the absorption and the emission. But our UV spectroscopy, it is under the category of absorption technique. This technique is also called as a electronic spectroscopy just because the energy which we are providing to the molecule is useful to transit the transit the electron from ground state energy level to the excited state energy level, which is electronic in nature, and that's why it is called as a electronic transition, or it is also called as a electronic spectroscopy. Now the main question arises, what is the meaning of conjugation? So conjugation is nothing but the alternate double and single bond. It is called as a conjugation, whether it is in a diene, whether it is in the especially in a benzene, so it is called as a conjugation. Conjugation is mainly of the two type, that is aromatic and aliphatic in nature. When the conjugation is present in a straight chain, then it is called as a aliphatic, and when the conjugation is present in a ring form, then it is called as the aromatic. These conjugations could be separated or analyzed on the basis of the UV visible spectroscopic technique. So let us move toward the basic principle of the UV visible spectroscopy. So as this technique is the absorption spectroscopy, so the law which is employed, it is nothing but the Beer-Lambert's law. And we all know that when a beam of a monochromatic light passes through the homogeneous medium, the intensity of reflected radiation is directly proportional to the intensity of incident radiation. It is also depend or the directly proportional to the concentration of your medium and also the length of absorbing medium. So this is nothing but a Beer-Lambert's law, and this law is used to study the UV visible spectroscopy. When we study the UV visible spectroscopy, and if the value of the Beer-Lambert's law is more, it means that more number of atoms are used or involved in the interaction with the radiation pattern. So the mathematical derivation for of the Beers-Lambert's law is nothing but A is equal to log of I0 upon I is equal to epsilon into C into L. So these mathematical forms have the certain meanings, that is the C is nothing but the concentration and L is the length of the absorbing medium. It indicates that more the number of absorbing substance or more the number of absorbing matter in your compound, you get a more intense peak. Now we have to discuss about the instrumentation of this UV visible technique. So this technique involved the source, after that the monochromator, after that there is a sample holding device, then detector, amplifier and the recorder. The source which is used in this technique, it must gives you the radiation from the range of 190 to 800 nanometer, and that's why we are using a hydrogen deuterium lamp or the tungsten filament lamp here. After the source, there is a monochromator, and that monochromator have the three different parts, sub parts we can say, entrance slit, then dispersing device and the exit slit. The work of entrance slit is to pass the radiation from the source to the in the continuous form to the dispersing device. The dispersing device disperses the light into the different wavelength, and that wavelength which is different have a different energy. So the radiation which is coming from the source are polychromatic in polychromatic in nature, but the radiation which is out of the dispersing device, they are monochromatics. But particularly we required some specific wavelength radiation, and that's why the exit slit provide that particular wavelength to be passed out from that exit slit, and other will be bar there. After that the sample holder, this sample holder is made up from the glass or quartz. The radiation coming out from the exit slit are interact with the matter which is present in your sample holding device. There is an absorption technique, and the light which is absorbed by the sample for the electronic transition are analyzed or detected by the detector, and this detector pass the signals to the recorder. But before going to the recorder, the radiations should be intensified by using the amplifier, because the radiation coming out from the device detector, that is not sufficient to be recorded directly. So that's why we need the amplifier there. So this is just a block diagram that gives you the idea about the instrumentation of the UV technique, that is the source. After that there is a monochromator, that is entrance slit, then dispersing device, then exit slit. After that there is a sample holding device, or you can say that simply the sample holder, then there is a detector, then there is a amplifier, and lastly there is a recorder. Basically, the UV visible technique is used to study the type of electrons and type of electronic transitions which takes place in your molecule. So how many different types of electrons are there? This one is the main important question. So there are three different types of electrons: sigma electrons, pi electrons and the non-bonding electrons. Sigma electrons are those electrons which are used to form sigma bonds. Pi electrons are those electrons which are involved in the pi bond formations, and n electron is nothing but the non-bonding electron, or it is also called as a lone pair of electrons. So if your molecule have all these three types of electrons, so it must go to the four different types of electronic transition, that is a sigma to sigma star, then n to sigma star, pi to pi star and n to pi star. So we have to discuss all these transition one by one. First one is the sigma to sigma star transition. This transition is required very high energy, because it have to pass from sigma bonding to sigma anti-bonding energy level. The energy gap is very high, so that's why such types of transitions are not easily identified by the recorder, but these transitions are always there in any type of organic compound which contain the sigma bond. After that there is a n to sigma star transition. These types of transition is observed only on those compounds which have the non-bonding pair of electron. It means a lone pair of electron along with the sigma electrons. So such types of molecules are those which have a heteroatom in the species, just like ethanol. So this ethanol have a sigma bond and also the oxygen which have the lone pair of electron, and that's why there is a possibility of transition of the n to sigma star. The n to sigma star transition probably occur very frequently than that of the sigma to sigma star, because the energy gap between the n and sigma antibonding is somewhat less. Then next is the pi to pi star transition. These types of transitions are observed in those species which contain a pi bond along with a sigma bond, just like alkenes, alkynes, or the dienes which have the pi bond along with the sigma bonds. They are responsible to give the such a type of electronic transition. Again, these types of transition require somewhat less energy than that of the n to sigma and then that of the sigma to sigma star transition. So that's why these transitions can be easily happen in the molecule if it contain the non-bonding electron and the if it contain the pi electrons. Then last one is the n to pi star transition. So this transition is frequently observed in those species which have the sigma bonds, pi bonds, and the non-bonding pair of electrons, just like in case of aldehyde or in case of the carboxylic acid. There is a sigma bond, pi bond along with the heteroatom which have the lone pair of electron, and that's why there is a possibility or there is a occurrence of this transition, that is n to pi star transition. The energy gap between these two transition energy level is very less, and that's why the transitions will be occur very easily. So this is about the types of transitions which is occurred in the molecule. So next one is the this one is the basic diagram which gives you the information about the energy gap between the different energy levels, that is sigma and sigma anti-bonding have the very high energy, but after that the n to sigma requires somewhat less energy. Then pi to pi is again less, and n to pi is again a very less energy gap, and that's why it requires a very less amount of energy. So this is all about the electronic transition. Now we have to move toward the next and the last point, that is nothing but the absorption shift. Now we have to discuss the absorption shifts one by one. So first one is the bathochromic shift. It is also called as the red shift. It is related to the change in wavelength. So when the change in wavelength towards the longer wavelength region, it is called as a bathochromic shift or red shift, because that longer wavelength region, it is red in color. Another one is the hypsochromic shift, or it is also called as a blue shift, because the change in the wavelength, that is towards the lower region, and toward the lower region there is a blue light, and that's why it is called as a blue shift also. When the radiation energy is high, then it is called as a hyperchromic shift, and when the shift of absorption towards the lower energy level, it is called as a hypochromic shift. All these shifts are observed due to the change in the external factor, just like a change in the solvent. If your component contain a chromophore, or if it contain the any other substituent which affect the absorption maxima, can give you the any type of the shift. Again, the temperature which on which, and it is also depend upon the temperature to which you are measuring the absorption spectrum. So all these are the factors which are responsible for giving you the absorption shift. These absorption shifts are very important, because no recorder should detect the perfect lambda max value. It is somewhat less or somewhat more than that of the your theoretical values. So this is nothing but a small description about the UV visible spectroscopy. Thank you very much.